What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to another edition of Dangle Bet Celly here live on our FTN Network YouTube page on iTunes and Spotify. Chris Meaney bringing in Nick Martin, Nick N_hockey on the X machine over at Action Network. 10 games on the ice tonight. Nick, it's been a minute. Thank you for taking the time. We chopped it up late last night, and I'm happy that you're able to join me here today with a lot of action in the NHL. And dude, I'm not going to lie to you or the people. I've been ice cold over the past couple weeks. So I'm looking forward to you coming in and giving the people some winners here. Welcome in, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I've been cold on sides too. It feels like the more I think a number is good and we get some line value, it just goes out the window in the NHL right now. So, hopefully tonight shake things up, due for some good variance. And it looks like a good slate. So
sides have been okay for me. It's there's been an adjustment period. I mean, a couple of years ago, you and I chopping it up on this show or on Mean Streets and just chatting back and forth, really saw a lot of value in shot props. I mean, there was a time where we were getting Nathan McKinnon and Austin Matthews at 2.5, 3.5. Now these guys are 5.5. So you've seen a lot of people move up to 3.5 at plus money. Hard to take the under when it's like minus 170, minus 175 for some of these shot props. So I've been slowly moving away from them and getting involved with point props. But are you seeing what I'm seeing and other people are seeing, especially in the shot prop market? I'm seeing stat corrections, which have been a little shady. And I'm also just, like I said, the price for some of these shot props are just, they're either too juiced. And if you go to 365 or FanDuel and get alternate lines, almost begging you to put these guys into a parlay, and that's where the losses do pile up.
Yeah, I think there's like a couple different things going on. Like so many people are playing it, everyone plays over, so the numbers just get crunched, and then they're juiced. Most sites have higher vig on shot props than ever, and then the stat corrections. I mean, a lot of the time I think they're fair, but it's just frustrating. Nobody wants to have to sit there and track and worry about what's coming off the board and what's not. I think, like you say, I've had more beef with some of the point corrections. Yeah, I mean, it's tough out there. I think it is getting harder to find value. Like a couple of years ago, it would just be simple. We'd be like, this guy moved up the lineup. This price is too short. Boom.
Yeah. There's a few players that we can talk about here today that have moved up the lineup. Nick, we always want to say what up to the crew, so we'll start that off here. Evan's in the house. It might be a little late to the show, but just know I'll be stopping by at some point. Jazz is in the house. What's good? Pucksters says he can't seem to figure out the Islanders. Do you have any thoughts on the New York Islanders? They're really inconsistent. They're one of the older squads in the NHL. They get great goaltending. Their 5-5 numbers are brutal. They're atrocious. Like, they are right there at the top in terms of shots allowed and shot attempts allowed at 5-5. They're really just getting wins from their goaltending. I think some nice moments from Barzal. But do you have anything here that you could say about the Islanders for Jazz? He loves himself some NYI.
Okay, yeah. The one thing I'd throw out there, and I think they might have a little more firepower than people think, but they're kind of on a shooting percentage heater right now. Like, you could point to that and say probably due for a little regression. I mean, when you talk about this team scoring their way out of they're not defending very well at all, which is pretty obvious to say when you've got those goalies and you're giving up all the leads and all the amount of goals they are. But I question if they'll be able to keep scoring at such a rate. Like, they're shooting at 14% for the last month. Whenever teams do that, you hear their fan bases kind of say there's X reason and this reason we're doing this differently. And then they typically come down to earth. So I don't know. I think they can defend better than they've shown. Is probably obvious to say, but I just don't think the offense keeps humming like this. I mean, they're probably just going to keep competing for the wild card, right? I hear it all the time, Chris, because as you might know, Leboff, co-host of Line Change with me, is a huge Islanders fan. So I've always got the scoop. Yeah. And that's kind of my thoughts on it. Is they might defend better, but I don't think they could score like this all year. So
yeah, they're 7-1-2 in their last 10 games, and they are scoring 83 goals. They are second right now in the Metro, just 6 points back of the New York Rangers. So they're playing really good hockey. I don't think they're a playoff team, but when you have the goaltending that you have, even if their goals regress a little bit and they fix it up, fix up their defensive game, maybe they can squeak into the playoffs. But I would say the Devils get in. Like, if you're looking at the Metro, are you saying New Jersey and Carolina get in, and maybe Washington, Philly, the Islanders, like two of
Well,
those
that's
teams
like
get bounced?
Carolina's crazy. They can't get a save. I mean, as
No.
much as maybe they haven't played great, it feels like it's almost just as simple as they can't get a save. So who knows what's going to happen with Anderson and if he gets back in there soon and plays decent. But yeah, it's a pretty crazy race. I agree, though. It seems hard to see where they get a spot. I think they could maybe still steal a wild card spot and maybe one of the other Atlantic teams falls out. But yeah, it'll be tough.
It's gonna be tough. Like, I would say Boston, Florida, and Toronto are teams that are locked in. The Rangers are locked in, and then we'll see what happens here in the second half. But teams like Pittsburgh, Carolina, and New Jersey, they can't afford too many slides. They got to kind of get going here. Evan says, here's what to do. You stay away from them. But they have been scoring some goals lately and winning some hockey games.
Or you just
John
another
Marchessault and
team
Hammerhead
move on.
Union in the house here. Good morning, fellas. Dude, listen, you may get banned for life if you keep it up with this Debo stuff. I may just have to ban you, man. Like, that's it, straight up. You're gonna get kicked out of the show. I'm kidding. You know what? I'll say this: Debo's receiving yard prop at 68.5 over the weekend was just far too low. Another 100-yard game from Debo. But yeah, jokes aside, keep bringing it. All right, we'll get you back in the playoffs. Vegas puck line, Aiden Hill shutout. Not sure Aiden Hill's going to play. Maybe there's some news that he is active, but he's been sidelined for the past couple of weeks, so I don't really know about that one. Panthers in 60. We got some plays here cooking from the crew. Okay, let's get going here. Well, Nick Troy does say I think both wildcard spots will be in the Atlantic this year for the Eastern Conference. Yeah, I would say that's a pretty good bet. Although,
I don't know. I don't know that
yeah, I don't know either actually
they're
because I'm
kind
not
of
buying Detroit,
out. Yeah.
and Buffalo and Ottawa and Montreal are in teams that I would like. Ottawa's played only 22 games. Like the Sabres have played 29, so they have some ground
That's
to
true.
make
They
up.
could take one and then that could because I actually it feels like everyone's just completely writing them off basically because they played 22, right? Like
Yeah,
if they win 3 out of the 5 games they have on like everyone in the league. And I know it's
they're
tough.
right there.
Yeah, exactly. So they are probably a little less out of it than a lot of people realize, I guess.
I would say New Jersey and Carolina find ways to get in, but you're certainly right about the Hurricanes and the defense. They're not really getting any goaltending at the moment. All right, so let's get after it. What's your favorite game on the slate? We're gonna roll through these 10 games. We may not have a pick or two in every game, but we'll talk about them from like a hockey standpoint, trending up players and whatnot. But I'll let you kind of kick us off here at a matchup that you're looking forward to tonight. You start us off. Where are you going?
Okay, I'm going to go with the Blues. I think is my favorite side price left on the board. They are catching the Wings in a really, really good spot. And I just think they've been competitive enough that I want to play this, right? And it almost is kind of, I mean, not just because you never want to see anyone get hurt, but the Larkin thing and the Comfort thing is almost annoying because I had circled this game where I thought the Blues could be a good underdog looking ahead. And now you get them out of the picture. The line's probably moved almost more than I'd say it deserves to for 2 guys in the NHL, but it is tough. You get them both stockpiled and both had been excellent. So I think the Blues can really take advantage of this situation. I look at Detroit and they have very break-even run of play numbers. And I think that's the way it's looked. They've gotten pretty reasonable goaltending. Who knows what to expect with that, right? Maybe that is kind of just what their tandem is they're actually a little better than we saw last year, probably fair, but they're finishing everything. Like their power play has been just so explosive. And I just question if that will hold. Like, did anyone really count on this being like such a like high powered offense? Really? I don't know if I see it. I think DeBrincat's obviously been great. He was a big addition. He's done what he's supposed to do. Daniel Sprong, my guy, always loved Spring Sprong from when he was with the Caps, but I still don't think this offense is this good. So you kind of catch them in a position where the Blues should control more of the play. Tough spot for Detroit. I didn't think I'd be liking the Blues at -135 versus Detroit this year, but I think I do in tonight.
I would agree. Yeah, Bet365 hanging -135. So yeah, Detroit played last night. They lost that game against the Stars. We were on Dallas in 60, and a little bit of a sweat job there. I do have a prop from this game that I like. Jake Neighbors. I like him to pick up a
Ooh,
point
yeah.
at +100 over at DraftKings. and he's plus 135 for 3 shots. And we just talked about shot props here, but just want to give him a little bit of love. Like 27 games this season, he's already topped his goal and point total from last year. He had 10 points in 43 games last year. So he's up to 10 goals and 11 points. I mean, he's got an unsustainable 20% shooting rate, but he is playing with 2 good players and pass first guys, I think, in Robert Thomas and Buchnevich. So, I mean, he could maybe get you 20, 25, from a season long standpoint in fantasy hockey. I think he's a pretty good pickup, but 12 minutes per game last year, the first 2 months of the season, 12 minutes per game. Here in December through 5 games, small sample, but trending up, 19 minutes per game. He's hit the 20-minute mark in 4 of his last 7. 9 of his 11 points have come over the last 12 games, and he's cleared 2.5 shots in 7 of his last 9. You mentioned Detroit, without Larkin, without JT Compher, 6 goals last night, 17 goals over their last 3 games, the second half of a back-to-back, right? So I do like a Neighbors here for the 3 shots at plus 135 at DraftKings, for the point at plus 100 at DraftKings. Robert Thomas for an assist at minus 120. Again, there's guys I like here for shot props. I like Mort Seider for 2, but minus 160. Like, what are we doing, right? So 365, you can do a Seider and Neighbors for just 2+ shots each. That'll work out to plus 125. You can do a Thomas and Buchnevich point parlay over at 365. That's plus 105. What do you think about Joe Veleno for a point at plus 130? Maybe a sprinkle, just because of how thin they are.
That's the
playing
thing.
with Kane and DeBrincat. Maybe he picks up a point.
Yeah, I like don't hate Kane and DeBrincat either, even though, and it's funny, I think Kane's looked respectable as someone who was actually really low on his chances of doing okay. Seeing people post things like Detroit has lost all 3 games and with him in the lineup is like insanely unfair to him, because it's just been 3 games that weren't his fault at all. The one game they got down to like 8 forwards or whatever it was last night in Dallas, tough spot. So I'm not like looking at it as like I'm downgrading them because of Kane's addition. I do think he's not going to make a huge difference, like especially on a team whose power play was already humming, right? Like, are they going to be better with Kane in the mix on the power play? Maybe. It seems kind of hard to believe the way they were rolling for that. So who knows? And I actually think he's looked respectable. I don't want to say that's part of the reason here. He did play 20 minutes last night, and they're probably going to ask something similar tonight. So I think it's kind of a tough spot for all the wings. But yeah, that's interesting if you're talking about their props. And then, you said it with Jake Neighbors. I think it's interesting too, because like high pick, supposed to be a good player, comes in, looks great, looks talented, and he's getting a good role. So I think that's kind of all you can ask for, where it's like, this probably isn't just pure fluke that he's kind of on this heater with shots and props. So I like that look.
He was a game the other night. I think it was against Zona. I need to go back and take a look. It was the last 5 minutes of the game. They were just on the ice the entire time. And I know they had the goalie pulled, but that was like the outlier game, I think, in terms of ice time. It was against the Blue Jackets. He played like 21 minutes, but then he did follow up with another game with 21 minutes. But I noticed in that game, the last 5 minutes of the game, they just loaded up on that top line. I think the extra attacker may have been Braden Shen. Of course, they were down 4 or 5 goals and had the goalie pulled in the last 5 minutes, but getting all the ice time that he can handle, which is really nice to see. Something that you and I chatted before we got on here, maybe we can just address this now before we get to the next game and get your thoughts. Seth is in the house here. He says, "Hey, Meaney, as much as I hate it, I'm feeling that the way the books have all these guys at 3.5 shots, that it might be time for me to start picking some unders." Thoughts on picking unders? And I think that's a really good conversation. But again, like we said off the top, it's easy to say, okay, I like the under, 3.5, but do you like it at minus 170? And then something we chatted about before, I think we were giving Moods a little bit of love. He's been, I've done some stuff with him over at the Pat Mayo Media Network. He does some great stuff as well with the morning podcast. I think you mentioned he had some sort of statistic earlier, but Troy checks in and says league-wide shot on goal down 3%. Everyone is getting skunked this year in shots on goal. So I think we kind of addressed it at the top of the show, but is there anything else that you have that you'd like to add to that?
Well, I think the under thing is interesting. I'm trying to get more into it. It's just typically not been my process. But if you can look at a team where, like something like the Yotes playing against Sean Couturier last week, which is a spot where I really liked Philly because of the way that he can just be an eraser on a team that just has one top line. I think something like that, where you can try to eye up a guy who's going to get really tough minutes on a team that might not control play the way they usually would. I think And then the other thing, you're trying to catch guys sliding down the lineup whose minutes have been trending kind of low. So it's kind of just the reverse of what I think a lot of people are used to looking for. But it does seem like there's more value left on that point. And then, yeah, I think that 3% is 100% just the stat corrections, which I'm not trying to say, like, I don't really think they're rigged at all. I think they're fair. If you go back, there's a lot where it's like, it's just that they're ruling it's going a hair wide, I think is what it is. The ones that just drive me nuts is when they don't correct the ones where it should have been a shot, since they're catching all the ones
Right.
off the board.
Yeah.
Like, that's what makes me mad about it, is still that there's ones that I think should count that aren't, and they don't find it. Otherwise, I could really just kind of be like, okay, it is what it is. They're getting it right. You got to, I guess, just try to be patient before you kind of assume you've won things. But I don't know. It's a frustrating ordeal. I think everyone's on board with that.
Yeah, I think let's get to sides. We could try to find some value with shots, and then I think the point props really is kind of where I'm kind of guiding into some of these. Just got to adjust, man. Like, they're adjusting, so it's time for you to adjust. When I say them, Vegas, because I think we cleaned them up when it comes to shot props for a good 2 years, over 200 units won at FTN, but we're really struggling when it comes to shot props these days. Let's go over to the Rangers and the Maple Leafs. So last night, John Tavares got his 2 points against his former squad. They came back, tied the game, but it was the Islanders, which you talked about earlier, ended up winning that game. So again, like, you want to take an under. Like, do I think Morgan Riley's under 3 shots tonight? Yeah, but at minus 175, I'm not interested. Alexei Lafreniere under 3 shots. Yeah, minus 160, not totally interested at all. But anyways, for tonight, we've seen definitely some line movement since these boards were made from our guy Fox. You see minus 139 for the Rangers, not the case at all anymore. If you want to back the Rangers, minus 170 at FanDuel is the best number I'm seeing at the moment. And the Leafs checking in at plus 155 over at Bet365, and the total here at 6.5. If you want to take the over, it's plus money over at DraftKings. So I would assume Martin Jones is getting the call tonight, with the Leafs playing last night, Joseph Woll being sidelined here. And we saw Jonathan Quick the last time the Rangers played, so it should be Shesterkin between the pipes. It's a steep price, man, to pay for the Rangers. I do like them in this spot. Does the line movement change your thought process at all? Like, are you maybe interested in the Leafs now all of a sudden? What do you think with this game?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go to the Leafs, but you can't play minus 170 or worse, I don't think. I think this game is just an interesting talking point in terms of NHL handicapping. We can talk about Vegas figuring it out, but this game still opened at minus 132. I said it on our podcast. I said it in an article, like, that will not hold. It's just wrong. Like, it's completely wrong. Whoever wins the game, the number's bad. It's like, anytime you can say it's going to move 20 cents, no matter what, the number's bad. And I think you just have to live with the result. And the kid just all revolved around Jones was always going to play this game. And then, you move the number 4.5% for back-to-back. It just didn't make sense to me. I think these teams are pretty close, but it's a tough spot for Toronto, game in New York. I don't really see what the disrespect was. And then, yeah, you look at this morning, once Jones is announced, the line just moves this much. So I think that is an interesting angle on the NHL, where it's like, teams basically don't go back-to-back with their starter. Like, you can almost write that as a rule. I pretty much just write it as a rule. And then if you end up being wrong, maybe it'll get you here and there, but 9 times out of 10, you're just going to have a way better price than you would have had elsewise. So I thought this was a perfect example of that, because I was really surprised at where it opened. Now it seems like everyone's putting the spot together with how, and then keep in mind, that's with a surprise absence for Keandre Miller too, who's been unreal. So
He has been, man.
Like, I think that just shows kind of where this number was always going to be. I think at open, the Rangers were a clear value play, and now it's just, I don't know. It's just, I don't even know. I agree, actually. Maybe like on Bet365, the Leafs are plus 155, the Rangers minus 185. That's pretty crazy.
If I'm going to pick a side, I may just lean with that plus 155, man. Like, or the over.
For sure. I mean, if I thought it would move 55 cents and they think that's the fair price, I would have thought this was a huge play, right? Like, so yeah, I agree. Now it's probably going to be more competitive than that price suggests. Who knows though? Martin Jones, that's a little scary.
That's why I kind of have a lean to the over. I know that it's just Shesterkin between the pipes, but the Leafs can score, right? They can score a couple goals here, and if Martin Jones lays, the Rangers can score.
Like, I thought they were a great play. I was big on them Saturday versus Washington, and it was I thought they played their worst game of the year versus Ottawa, but that was definitely a new winner.
Yeah.
I've kind of paid attention that the Rangers might be falling off a bit. Their 5-on-5 play still looks pretty standard. But with those things in mind, I still thought that they were in a pretty good spot here. So, yeah.
I would lean with them winning this hockey game, but I agree with the chat and with you. It's kind of a stay away at this price. And Emmerich says looking for some goal scorers tonight. We'll have a couple here for you, Emmerich, towards the end of the show. There's one shot prop that I like, and I know it's the least, but their 5-on-5 numbers are not as strong as what they were last year. They're giving up more, shot attempts and shots. I like Trocheck, but I only like him at Bet Rivers at -129. Like, for example, I see the prop shop -167 for 3 shots at Caesars, Bet365 -160. But if you're a Unibet user or a Bet Rivers user, -129 for 3 shots. He does have at least 3 shots in 7 of his last 8 games. Panarin has been unbelievable this season, and it's been a really good connection between those two. Alexei Lafreniere is playing some pretty good hockey as well. I think that if maybe we can call a couple of goals in here, like Zibanejad at +200.
Yeah,
I
I
think
like
DraftKings.
Mika. Yeah.
You like Mika? He's starting to turn the corner a little bit over the last month or so. FanDuel has got actually DraftKings has the best price at 2-1. Mika goal.
Yeah, I think it's decent. Their power play is going so well, and I kind of like it's a minor, but I feel like some of his shots from distance that he's going to be able to get, and he just always seems to get, are more likely to go in on Martin Jones. I think that just seems like a good special teams game. So maybe there you could maybe do power play point for some of the Rangers guys too. I think it's so hard to work around having a suspect goaltender on the power, like when you're facing a top power play, because they're going to get some looks, right? Like you need a couple saves here or there of the middling could be saved, might not be saved variety. So I like that. I feel like they're still snapping it around really good. He had a really nice power play goal the other night versus LA. So yeah.
Any concerns with the Leafs? I know this is talked about a lot here north of the border.
Well,
We both
I think
are.
they're worse than last year. No one's going to care about what they do. Like they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they've looked pretty average. Yeah, he mentions no regulation wins. Definitely a flaw. I think they're kind of getting the typical Leafs hate a little bit. Like people talk about them like this is like a non-playoff team, and then every single year they just cruise in. That's probably taking a little far, but I don't think they're near like a top cup contender right now.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think that they're gonna get in. I just didn't like some of their moves, man. Like I don't mind the Bertuzzi one. Domi hasn't done much, but like Klingberg, another guy that they can bury on long-term IR. But that contract was so. I mean, he wasn't playing good hockey last year, and he was just playing awful to start. And then Ryan Reeves,
same thing.
You don't need to get into it, but 3 years for this guy who's 37, and it's all about the playoffs. It's not about the regular season. He can fight as many people as he wants to in the regular season, but in the playoffs, his role is going to be extremely limited. I could see a 7-game series against the Bruins and him playing 2 or 3 games, being scratched in a majority of the games or playing 4 to 6 minutes and maybe finishing as a minus in those 4 to 6 minutes as well. So I'm not crazy about the moves. We'll see what they do on the back end, right? Because I think they need to do something. They need to address it.
You need grit that can play is the reality. Like you can't stick Reeves out there to run around and fight, Brad. Like you already look at these Leafs games too. There's already been some big incidents, and none of them, Reeves hasn't been able to do anything. Nylander got CFB'd the 3rd game in Florida, and not especially when the games don't matter. Or at least you can say whatever, if I do something here, if I take an instigator, it's not the end of the world. And you still can't do anything, and they're still getting run. It's just, I think and then like you said, I think the defensive play has probably got underrated in some of the previous years where they got to the playoffs and just couldn't score. And then now I think they actually have a pretty shaky defensive core for the time being. So yeah, I don't know how you buy on them this year after the way it's gone in some of the previous years. They're still good because all their stars keep the floor so high, but I don't think they've gotten better around the edges.
Got to give some love to William Nylander, though. What an awesome season he's having, and dude's going to get paid. He's going to get the money. And if I'm him, I'm saying, listen, Marner's getting this, and I'm out producing Marner, so I want that kind of money as well. Let's go over to Edmonton. This is a lopsided affair here. The Oilers are minus 500 in certain spots here tonight. They are plus 105 to win by 3 goals, which is wild as well. Anything can happen in the NHL, but Edmonton is finally cooking here on offense. They have won 7 straight games. They've outscored their opponents 35-12 over that span. I'm going to lead here with Evan Bouchard for an assist at minus 120. It's tough to, take somebody for an assist at minus 120. I find anyways, there's a couple players that I will dive in. The assist prop for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has been around this number tonight. It's minus 140. It's a little steep. You can get Hyman for an assist at plus 125. Jack Eichel's a guy that I usually go to right around this price. Jack Hughes at 1 point. But Bouchard, 28 points in 25 games. 20 of them have been assists. He's riding an 11-game point streak. He's got 16 points and 11 assists over that span. 8 of those 16 points have come on the power play. Remember what he did in the playoffs last year? He was basically picking up 2 or 3 power play points a game. We have him in the tracker at 80-1, at 10-1, to get 80 points this season. We did take the over.
I never saw that. That's
over at DraftKings. I don't know. 80 points is a lot, but he's on his way. If he can just stay healthy. He's been sniping. He's got that shot.
Yeah, his shot is
from the
insane.
power play. His shot is insane. I'm hoping that he gets an assist tonight. So minus 120 is where I'm going. I don't know what else you can really do. I don't know if you take a little bit of a sprinkle on the Blackhawks or anything like that, but I'm going to go with Jared for an assist.
I don't mind the Nuge and Hyman looks. They're probably going to stay with McDavid at 5-on-5, right? And in a game that they'll probably lead and not decide they got to stack the Draisaitl unit. It feels like they were doing every night when things were going bad. I think that's not bad. Those guys just kind of get to ride on McDavid's coattails. Not that either of them are bad players at all now that he's absolutely humming. So I think that'd probably be my favorite. But you see a game like this and I almost just get turned off right away. Or sometimes the ones I like on these, depending on the spot, I don't know if I see the Oilers letting down here, is the huge underdog to win the first period. It's worked out good for in Boston the last couple of years. There's been a few I've caught it, but I don't know. It just feels hard to price these out. And obviously the props get so juiced too when you're talking about a game where the Oilers implied total is over 4.5 or right at 4.5.
Yeah. I think they probably score 5 goals or so. I think the value is with some of these assists, maybe Hyman falls into assists tonight at plus 120 playing with those guys on the first power play. Draisaitl's plus money for 2 points, McDavid's minus 140, but Draisaitl's plus 125. But it has been that top line that's getting it done, right? 365, you can take all those guys for a point around plus 110. You can take 3 of those guys for 2 points at 9-1. You can just a little bit of a sprinkle and kind of play things that way. But I don't think there's really, I've been riding Kurashev. I was doing Kurashev for a little bit, 1.5 shots because it's a decent price, but now that seems to be gone. And Bedard slowed down a little bit too when it comes to
Bedard.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Here's Anthony Bolivier.
Yeah. It's brutal for him. It makes me sad because I think he's been as good as advertised.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that's really a very contentious take, but it's just, what do you do? The team is terrible. And now Korchinski's gone. What? It's just no talent for him to work with.
Seems to be some love here for the Oilers over team total with the Oilers. Is there a universe that Evan Bouchard can't sneak up and get the Norris?
I put that in there at the start of the year, but it's really going to put the test of how little the rest of the game matters. And I think Bouchard's starting to defend better, as all the Oilers are, but you just look at the difference Makar is making, and Quinn Hughes too, but Makar is just taking over games right now. When he's on the ice, it's just a whole different world for the Avs. So I don't know. I hope that happens, Troy, but I who knows? I think he's going to need to outscore them by something crazy, which looks tough because Makar's kind of racking it up too, and Quinn Hughes as well. I'd love to. We could bet nominations. I think he can be that third guy.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that. I think the final 3 would be he was in there with Makar and with Hughes, but yeah, it's gonna be tough. He certainly is on a heater. He is scoring, but you can't argue what Quinn Hughes and Kale McCarr have done as well. Evan, I had someone trade me McDavid and Bouchard in my season-long league when Edmonton was getting trashed, smiling ear to ear.
Get me in
Unbelievable.
that league.
Unbelievable to be able to buy low on
That's a
a guy
stud.
like
I have just
McDavid.
Bouchard and he carries my team.
Yeah, Bouchard, Hyman, Oil over 4.5, same game parlay. Bouchard goal. Okay, everyone's on Bouchard here tonight. What could go wrong? 6-2 Oilers win, and Bouchard with the hat trick. Is that what we're saying here today? This is get us an assist, and we can move on from this game. Okay, let's talk about Carolina and Ottawa. You know, you talked about the Hurricanes not being able to get a save at all at the moment, and I don't know, man. Does this thing turn around? They're still stingy as ever at 5-5. They don't give up a whole lot. The penalty kill hasn't been as strong as what we're used to seeing with Rod Brendamore's squads. I guess that's one thing as well. That's probably an outlier for them. Mentioned the Senators. I mean, yeah, they've played pretty inconsistent. I mean, they have 11 wins and 11 losses. They don't have any overtime points here or any overtime losses, but they've only played 22 games. Again, they're sitting there with 22 points. You know, for example, Detroit has 32 points, but that's 5 games fewer that they've played. So like you said earlier, if they win 3 of 5, they win 4 of 5, they're right there in this thing. What do you make of this game? Is there anything that you like? We got Josh Norris on the board because I kind of like him overall, like just getting top line minutes, playing with Kachuk and Giroux, first power play. I don't like to take any shot props at all against Carolina. Maybe that's an under that we can, maybe there's some unders we can consider here, but I like Norris to pick up a point. He's like minus
Yeah,
110.
and we want a pissed off team meeting Carolina kind of thing. But
Is that the theme of the season? Team meetings behind like closed doors? I feel like every other day there's a team meeting behind closed. Pittsburgh had one the other day too.
and then they lost. But I didn't really have much here, just basically with my main thought process being that I kind of have both these teams as teams that I'm probably going to be buying on a little bit this week. Like I looked at the Senators play in St. Louis Thursday. Chances are I'll like their price in that game, I'd say, assuming maybe they're probably about pick 'em. Same kind of thing with Carolina. I can't believe they're this bad. And even the goaltending's so hard to project, but are those two this awful? Like Ranta's been pretty good for them, and Kochekov. I don't even know who are they going Kochekov tonight, it looks like.
Yeah, they are. They're locked into Kochekov. And you know, maybe the over's the play here. Just like some of these games that the Hurricanes have played 5-4, 6-2, 6-1 Edmonton the other night, 4-3. Like they can't get the save. And
because then you're talking about this Canes team, you know, in this kind of a spot where they want to clean up the D, they want to support their goaltenders, and then I'm like, that's frightening too, because like, are the Canes this bad defensively? That seems very hard for me to accept. So I don't know.
the Sens play this weird style though. Like they're so, when I watch them play, they generate like 2-on-1s and then they
That's
come back
true.
the other way and it's like 3-on-1s. Like their defensive game is not. I've been waiting for Smith to get canned. I don't know. Like maybe they're just
wonder
at least has to be short.
once they're like caught up on games if they're not in a good spot. I think the other interesting note too, because Carolina this year, like they spread out the shooters and the talent, and they really have. And Svechnikov's out, which opens up a spot on top line. Looks like it'll be Bunting, and then on the power play, Jack Jury's there. So maybe that's something if you could get a really long number. Tavo's usually had a pretty long number to get some stuff done. I don't mind that. I'm personally just pissed off this whole year. I feel like I almost discussed this with you last year's. I was just getting crushed trying to back Tavo to get hot at the end of last year, and I just couldn't accept that he wasn't scoring it and shooting at the clip.
Started hot this year.
And then this year's crushing, I wasn't on it at all. I feel like I did it like one time.
I hate that. Yeah, the process is right, and it's like you burn you so much, you got to step away.
Last week too, I think.
Yeah.
Like 4 games before he got hot, I was like, this guy's gonna get hot. He's way too good. Like, and then I stayed off it the one night because I saw his first game under Hines. He played like 13 minutes. And then the game after, he just gets like 2 goals and 5 shots. And I was like, oh,
I actually don't mind the point prop for him tonight at like plus 110. I know he's gone scoreless over his last 4, but he does have like 18 points in the season. Before that, he had, you know, points in 4 of 7, 5 of 8 rather, or 5 of 7 rather, and like 3 of those were multi-point games. He is getting time on the top line. I just can't, you know, they've lost 4 straight. They've allowed 15 goals over that span. They've only scored 7 themselves. And I can't figure it out with them. Like who's going to be the guy? Natchez is having an awful year. He jumped up on that top line the other night against the Canucks, and I was like, oh, here's an opportunity for him to get going. Because when you look at daily faceoff, you look at the lines, you see him on the fourth line, although they'll roll all their lines. But I saw him on the fourth line. I was like, wow. I mean, I get it, but he's better than that. And then he had that opportunity to jump up on that top line, and he just didn't do anything. Like he played 19 minutes, but he was just out there. Like this, nothing was happening. He only had a couple shot attempts too.
I mean, that's always a comment about when things aren't going right for teams, when all the lines are getting scrambled nightly. And then I wonder if that makes it harder, it compounds it. Like you look at Columbus, and it's like, how is this possible, right? Like every night they shuffle all the lines. So I don't know. I think let's
move off from it.
Yeah. And then the last note I'll throw out too on the goaltending too, just because I do think this is always an interesting thing when you just want to pinpoint it. I thought Carolina played okay in Vancouver Saturday, right? And then they get the game tied up, work so hard, they get in it. Peterson wrap around, doesn't have the bottom of the goal sealed, and it's just a cheapie. Like at the end of the day, that's not supposed to go in on an NHL goaltender. There wasn't really a breakdown, and it's in your net. And I think that's just so defeating. So that's where it's hard to be like, can I bet this team right now?
I'm going to go Norris and Tebow for a point. It's a good point that you made about maybe them cleaning it up defensively tonight after the closed door meeting, but I do still have a slight lean to the over in this game because, like you said, I mean, they can clean it up all they want defensively. I think their game has been okay at 5-5. They're still among the leaders. Like they're right there with the Kings and the Bruins and Vegas of being like stingy squads, but like the Devils too, but they just are not getting the saves. And at the same time, I don't think the Senators are getting the saves either. Korpisalo was pretty good the other night. Maybe they go back to him tonight, but my goodness, like he checks in with a 903 save percentage. The game against the Wings, he was good, but the two before that, the three before that, 4 goals, 5 goals, 4 goals allowed. He's allowed at least 3 goals in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of his last 10 starts. It's been a rocky go for him, and I don't think it's completely on him. I think again, it really does go to the structure that the Senators do play. But let's shy away from that one, and we'll continue here with the Canadian theme. We'll go to Vancouver, the Canucks at home here against Tampa Bay. How about Nikita Kucherov, dude? Like, is he Jack Hughes is definitely getting some love, but Nikita Kucherov, early heart favorite here as we head into the couple last weeks of 2023. How do you make of his game? I was talking to a buddy the other day. He's actually taken it up to another level that I didn't think he had because he's already been so good.
Yeah, he's insane. He might be this, like, I don't think he gets enough credit for how smart he is. It's just like he's always threatening so many things, and his touch is just like he's so good at just collecting and already knowing what to do with the puck. I think, which is like gets to talk to it a lot, but it's just so hard to like defend someone. I think when pretty much you can be a stick length away and it's already off his stick and he's finding passes no one else could find with that kind of space. I agree with you. I think especially because Tampa has been kind of mediocre. Like he's really is just dragging them right now. So I didn't really have a lot on this spot, but I think Cooch I think has got to be the leader for the Heart, but who knows? You give McDavid 2 more weeks and it's probably going to be him.
Yeah, because of the run that McDavid is on, I could certainly see that. He's 4-1 at DraftKings on the MVP, but I think Jack Hughes is going to be in that conversation again. If we're picking nominations, it's probably Hughes, McDavid, and Kucherov at this point. No shots fired at JT Miller, who's on this board, who's been really good as well. Or Petey, Quinn Hughes
pumped him up, and I had dreams of it looking good for a bit there, and now it's just kind of it's just.
I think he gets the short end of the stick because he plays with, like, no disrespect to Lafferty, but I mean, his wingers, Kuzmenko's had some nice moments, but he's been in and out of the lineup. And then you put Lafferty on that line, Mikheyev on that line, but really, like, imagine if Brock Besser was on his wing, like JT Miller, I think is benefiting a little bit. Like Brock Besser's shooting percentage probably a little bit unsustainable, but those two are playing really good. What do you think about the total? Little like 6.5.
I think on Tampa, I still have to lean over always.
Yeah,
they've been pretty good, but like it's just and the overs have been hitting pretty well. I don't think the Canucks are defending too well, right? Like they're getting extremely good goaltending, and then it's a whole different ballgame trying to defend this Tampa team. I think with the way they can get you on the power play, it's just the whole league's trying to figure that out, and just feels like the Lightning are always kind of needing to score their way out of games with the way it's going right now. So that would be my look. As much as I love Demko too, I think he's one of the like deserving front runners for the Vezina and could be one of the more likely goalies to sustain like how good his play has been. Like I think if you look at like Connor Ingram and stuff like that on a middling team and a guy who's unproven like that, I don't think that's like going to continue to happen, right? I love the Yotes. I was beating them like all summer.
Same. We're big Yotes fans here too.
Yeah, but like I think you want to try to think about like what's the most sustainable. So
right.
I don't know. I didn't have a lot here. I think the over's a decent look.
One thing I've noticed with the Lightning is, even without Vasilevsky for the first couple months of the season, this was still a team that was allowing a lot more than we're used to seeing in terms of chances and quality chances, right? So Vasilevsky's been pretty solid. I mean, he's won 3 straight games here, but he's had some moments, right? He gave up 6 goals to the Stars there one night, and a couple other games where he's given up at least 3 goals. But I think we could see some offense in this game. Kucherov's plus money for 2 points if you want to ride some sort of trend here. Our guy Hammerhead, he loves the Canucks. He's been on the Canucks. Cirelli's been a decent. Cirelli's has been very nice helping the car. He's trying to get some props here so he can fix the car, which we love here on this show. Cirelli's been a decent little. We've been talking about him in DFS, maybe not tonight in like a 10-game slate, but I have I've mentioned him as like a one-off because they use like around the $3K price on DraftKings. But yeah, Cirelli
could do like if Stamkos sits, go with Barbelet as like a cheap stack because I still think Barbelet is a pretty dangerous player. Yeah, and do you think the Lightning get in? Because that's the thing that's interesting with the Lightning compared to like every other year is these games are big games now. Like they're right around like below 50% to get in the playoffs, which I think is kind of where most models have them.
I think they squeak in.
Oh yeah, it's tough. That Eastern battle is crazy.
It's going to be tough. Like I said, I Boston, Florida, and Toronto. I would say Tampa squeaks in. You get the Rangers in there, the Hurricanes and the Devils. Like that's kind of where I would go. I think. But yeah, I mean, 2 teams got to come out, right? There's Detroit's got to stumble. You got the Islanders that would have to stumble. So they do have to get on a run. I think. Their 5-5 game again. It's not as strong as it used to be. Like they keep losing assets. Like say what you want about Killorn and Palat at this point of their careers, but they keep losing assets, penalty kill assets, bottom 6 players. A bit of a setback here from Sergachev, but I think Vasilevsky, having him in the second half, they can get on a run. As for Cirelli, I mean, he's plus 110 for a point. He does have points in 4 straight games. Again, his shot prop is 1.5 at minus 190. Do I think he's gonna have 2 shots? Yeah, but can we bet that? No, we can't take that. But if you look back the last few games, 4, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, and 4, he is playing his best hockey in quite some time. Anthony Cirelli at the moment. So I've seen some people here that like him. Maybe they continue to ride that one.
Yeah, the other one out there too, maybe not as relevant tonight because it doesn't look like he's going to get the spot. But I like Barbelet, as we said. When he gets moved up the lineup, it's more of a game changer than an average player when he's going to get extra minutes because the guy shoots the stupid. Like he'll shoot anything from anywhere. It's just there's not a shot he doesn't like. And
I like that.
On the bad stat correction in Ottawa, he got moved up for a game in Ottawa early in the year. I was huge on him to get 2 shots. He had 2 completely clear shots, and this was one of my biggest beefs of the year, and they didn't count.
I hate hearing that stuff.
But yeah, he's the guy to watch when he moves up the lineup, just because he does take so many shots per 60.
Speaking of guys that move up the lineup, we'll go over to San Jose and talk about the Jets and the Sharks. Recently, we seen Nikolai Ehlers move up the lineup. Man, the other night against the Ducks, he was minus 125 for a point. I was like, is this a friggin' trap against the Ducks? How is he minus 1? And he got a point at the very end of the game on an empty netter and assist. We just lucked out to get it. He does have points in 4 straight games. He's shooting the puck quite a bit as well. Now he's not that priced tonight. He's like minus 200 basically for a point against the Sharks. And it does sound like Kyle Connor could be out of this game. What I saw from reports yesterday from the Winnipeg Free Press is that he was scheduled for an MRI, which is never what you want to hear. for a lower body injury. He only played 7 minutes the other night against Anaheim. So we do have the Jets, who are massive favorites. They're playing pretty good hockey, man. I basically counted them out. Like, I was like, I don't know if I'm really feeling this squad this year as a playoff team. I'd like the addition of Velarde. I thought they made it okay in that Pierre-Luc Dubois trade.
Yeah, they did
And
great.
Hellebuck has been great. So, and on the other side, San Jose's playing pretty good lately, man. Like, we were picking on them earlier in the year, some puck line stuff. We had some fun with that, but over their last few games, I mean, the 5-4 loss to the Golden Knights had picked up a point there. They came back on the wings, tied it up late, won in overtime 6-5. Same thing with the Islanders, came back. The Rangers, they lost 6-5, but they were very much in that game. They beat the Devils 6-3. They lost to a tough Bruins team in Boston 3-0. Wins before that against the Canucks in Washington. So this is a team that's picked up points in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 of their last 8. And do you smell some sort of upset with them? Or I tend to fade teams coming back home after a long road trip. Like, they went to Boston, New Jersey, the Rangers, the Islanders, Detroit, and Vegas, and now they come back home here tonight, and they have a Jets team that's already there waiting for them and playing pretty good hockey. So I don't know what you think of this matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I think the market's corrected enough here with the Sharks. There was a time where I think they had those 2 games where it obviously got so bad, and then they bounced back, and there was a great time to bet them when they were just getting ridiculous prices. I still thought it was a good price in Vegas on Sunday, even though they did lose in the shootout. But this feels like pretty close for how good the Jets have been. And I think the Jets are in this spot too, fairly well set up to actually manage the Connor loss. Like, as bad as it is, that he hurts the scoring upside so much, they've quietly got a lot of good two-way forwards now. And like you said,
yeah,
Velarde hadn't played. So if you look at, like, he's no Kyle Connor, but he helps you be an eraser, and you're always going to be likely to control even strength play with him on the ice. So they hadn't had him in the lineup. So at least now you have him back in the mix, not stockpiling injuries. And the other thing is Kapari too. They got unlucky here because I thought Kapari was centering the fourth line extremely well when he went down. Like, he was a really fun little guy to watch. I think quickly was becoming like a fan favorite that you love when he's out there just working, like a Darren Helm type guy. So yeah, they haven't had their pieces in the lineup from that trade really, but I think Velarde's going to make a difference. He's a really good player. So I don't know. This looks about fair to me. And if anything, I think I don't mind the Jets props. I still think, the Sharks are giving up so many goals. They just go down 4-2 every game and then get themselves going. But it still feels like you can project the Jets pretty high here. And maybe if you want to try to bank on whether it's Perfetti or who looks the most likely to benefit from the Connor absence, I don't even think Ehlers had been on the top power play unit as much as
no.
That seems insane. So
yeah, it is. It's insane.
It's so
They
good.
put the other night, they had Niederreiter on there. They had Velarde when he came back. So they took Ehlers off. I think there was like a game or two, or maybe they had him on. Maybe tonight that's the case. So yeah, I see some talk here about Kyle Connor goal. I don't think he's going to suit up. Scheduled for an MRI is kind of seems like that could be, I don't know about a significant injury, but he's going to miss a little bit of time, right? There's no need to force him tonight against looking like doubtful against San Jose. I think we'll see Alex Iafallo jump up on that top line.
And it's
Ehlers, Iafallo, and Scheifele.
The Jets, I think, kind of went from being that team that everybody's like uncle thought was the best defensive hard-nosed team to play against, and they really weren't. And now they've actually brought in all these like talented two-way forwards that I think are like, you got Nino Niederreiter, and I know he's been there for a bit, but he's great both ways. Iafallo is a sneaky player, and then Velarde. Like, they've done a good job of kind of keeping their name in the hat here.
Absolutely, they have. Like I said, I thought they did pretty good in that Pierre-Luc Dubois trade. I love Velarde as a player, man. He was part of the fantasy hockey draft kit as like a little bit of a sleeper and a sneaky play. And unfortunately, the injury happened. But the first 2 games that he played, first couple, he was playing on that top line. There was one game he had 9 shots, I think, and then another one where he just set up Kyle Connor. There seemed to be some chemistry there, and maybe they go back to that at full health at some point. But I think with Connor out, there may be an opportunity to jump on some stuff here, like Ehlers for an assist or Scheifele for an assist. They're both plus money. I like Scheifele for 3 shots tonight because of that. He's been right around the 2 or 3 over the past couple weeks, but maybe some more attempts for him, especially if it's a power play. We know the Sharks could be flat at home. they're among the leaders in taking penalties as well. So who becomes the trigger man now on that power play? It could be Scheifele. So 2.5 at -106. And then a long shot one here would be Velarde at +140 for 3 shots. So maybe a little bit more ice time, maybe top power play sort of stuff for him. The couple games that he's been back in the lineup, he's played 5 games. We're seeing the ice time, 1943 he played the other night. It was 12 minutes against the Avs. So he really stepped up when there was no Connor. And he had 3 shots in that game. He has 3 shots in 2 of his last 3. So we'll ride with that one. Hammerhead Union likes Scheifele, likes the draw here. Okay, going to overtime. And then he's hit in 8 of his last 10 games. It's only -125. I love that. What's that? Is that Scheifele? I think you can get a better price. 125 at DraftKings. Bet Rivers has -106 for him. But yeah, I'm on those ones. It's just like you said, maybe the Jets don't pull out the victory, but the Sharks are still giving up a lot of chances. Like they've had some wins lately. They're still giving up a ton of quality chances. Blackwood saved their butt a bunch of times this year too.
Yeah, like it feels like one of those things. They weren't as horrible as they were early on, and then they stabilized, and now it feels like probably they're, I mean, this is you look at what some of those home games were when things were really bad, and they're playing a good team tonight. Like they are getting quite a bit of credit for the run that they were just on.
Absolutely. Okay, let's head to Seattle. Got the Kraken at home. We've seen the regression in their game this season. They still can't get any saves. And then we have the Florida Panthers. Man, talk about weathering a storm. Playing really good hockey the first 2 months of the season without Ekblad, without Montour. Bennett's been in and out of the lineup, and no puck luck at all, really, for Matthew Tkachuk this season. Reinhart has had a great campaign. Verhaeghe I feel like, is always undervalued in the betting market as well. 6.5 here as the total. And we have, let's see, the latest odds using the parlay calculator. We got Seattle at +150 over at Bet365 as home dogs. Pretty interesting. And Florida checking in at -162. What you got, Nick? What you like?
I'm leaning Seattle at +150.
Yeah, +150.
As pathetic this run as an 8-game losing streak suggests. They've played some tough teams. They played pretty good versus the Devils. They got unlucky in that one. Same thing from the Lightning. The Wild are kind of sneaky. I think you can actually rate them pretty high. So I think it's been like competitive enough. I wish it wasn't the Panthers because I think they're pretty legit. But I don't view it as a smash spot on the Panthers at all. I think this could be one of those ones people are like, it's just, can you bet the Kraken's goaltending and whatever? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised to see this one be like a 50-50 contest that's really sneaky competitive and doesn't really live up to the prices. Just really don't think the Kraken are this bad. Like last year, they obviously got lucky. They finished everything, and I think everyone had them as like somewhat of a drop-off candidate, but this still feels like the low end of things. I don't think they've been like 8-game losing streak bad. They're still pressing. Oh, I don't know. And I'm looking at their schedule. It has been pretty brutal, but I mean,
I dig it, man. I think where you're at, I'm with you. I mean, there are some point props that I have in the tracker from 365, like Barkov and Reinhart. These guys to connect on a point, it's just been really good lately, and you can get that at plus money. But it's been completely the 180. Last year, they were the only team with a double-digit shooting percentage at 5-5, and this year, I'm looking natural stat trick. They're at 6.55. Like they're right there with the Ducks, the Sharks, and the Kraken, and also Florida, by the way, is right there with them.
That's the thing. Florida's really good, which is why I don't love it.
They haven't had the shooting percentage is not high for them either. Like they're not getting a lot of puck luck. They're getting some power play stuff that's falling for them. But like Matthew Tkachuk this guy is probably one of the better buy low candidates in fantasy hockey. Like things are going to turn around for him eventually.
For sure. And it's crazy. Like Florida, I thought would be a borderline fade team after that cup. And then I actually got lucky after the cup final. I got lucky because the market was really low on Florida, which I didn't expect. And then I didn't end up in any of these stupid Panthers fade positions I was expecting to be in. And everything looks good for them. Like Nico Mikkola has been excellent, and Larson's been really good. Like I think they're one of the most legit teams in the league. I actually was looking last week. They're 18-1 to win the cup. Not bad, I think. Like it's just they should be a favorite in one series and then a little over 2-1 in the rest of them, and they're gonna get there. I don't know. I don't mind it.
Evan says he's got a small sprinkle here too. And it's tough to go back again. I mean, obviously we've seen what 3-4 Florida teams in the Cup Finals. I mean, Tampa obviously 3 straight years, but man, they showed us last year that they can do it. And I think the biggest question that I had and a lot of people had about their squad was Bobrovsky, but he was fantastic throughout. He's been good this year as well. Get the blue liners there. They have, the experience now from the Cup run that they had.
And Erod,
And
great fit.
Erod is a great fit as well. And they may even add a player or two, at the deadline just to kind of bolster the bottom six or maybe get some stability on the back end as well. Andy, I do believe Verhaeghe's on the top line tonight with Reinhart and Sasha. Could be wrong. Yeah, they shuffle they shuffle around quite a. There's times where it's not as bad as Carolina, but I noticed Paul Maurice at times will do this. He'll put Verhaeghe up with Barkov, and then he'll put Cousins with Bennett and with Matthew Tkachuk. So I like Verhaeghe a lot better when he's playing with those two guys, and Reinhart and Sasha Barkov. But I still like that point prop at 365, Reinhart and Barkov to pick up a point. There's one guy that's been really impressive for me, Nick, just start to you before you jump in. For the Kraken is Oliver Bjorkstrand. Like his shot prop now is just he just can't get involved again with the -166 for 3 shots. But this guy's shooting the puck a lot. Him and Ellie Tolvanen with Yanni Gord has been like man, me too. Like it's been the one consistent line that they've had this year. McCann has been bouncing around all over the place. Matty Beniers hasn't had a great sophomore campaign. But that third line, I mean, I call it the second. Daily Faceoff has it as the third or whatever, but that line has been, I mean, they're going to try to line match and probably put them up against the Barkov line, I would say, but that line has been really, really consistent all year. He's -135 for a point.
Yeah, I like that. I think the one guy that I'm interested in buying on in deeper fantasy leagues and sometimes on point props, maybe not tonight, they could get some tough matchups. I still think Beniers turns it around and gets it going. I think that line's playing pretty good. Their underlying metrics are still really strong. So I've kind of been saying this for a bit, but I think it's like one of those Matt Boldy ones where I look at it. I don't think he's playing that much worse. The underlying numbers are pretty good. He's still in a good spot. He's, I mean, obviously super high pick, really talented young guy. So I just look at it and I'm like, is it not going to turn around somewhat with his line controlling play the way they have been, which is kind of the whole story of the Kraken. They're probably not as bad as they look. Right. But yeah, he's a guy I think is interesting in like deeper fantasy leagues buying on and some point props. I don't know what's he at tonight. Probably a little past 2-1.
He may be. I see his game has been much better lately. I would like to see them put McCann back up there. No disrespect to Yamamoto, but what the heck's going on? Like, why is that guy playing on the first line? Why is he playing on the first power play? Like, it really does blow my mind. He didn't do anything with the Oilers with good players. Like, I don't know. Matty Beniers for a point is +100.
When I look at the Kraken's lineup too, and I know they don't have this elite players, which is what's really making the difference. But I mean, Beniers' line is still controlling play to a high rate. Ty Karche's good. I think he's going to be a solid
he is good.
Player. He's big and he can finish.
He likes to shoot as well.
Yeah, he takes some dumb shots, but he has a laser. So I guess you can do that when you shoot like him. But I don't think they're this bad, right? Like they're going to stabilize, but they've already ruined themselves in the playoff race, but they're team I'm afraid to fade.
Okay, we got 3 more games to get after here tonight. Let's go to Pittsburgh. Arizona, Pittsburgh. We talked about it last night. They played Buffalo, so we should see Connor Ingram. We talked about the closed door meeting there with the Pens. I mean, I just don't know how they turn this thing around. Like Crosby's been so good. Like he's just been awesome, right? Like fine wine, this guy. He's among the leaders in 5 and 5 points. Gensel does his thing. Russ is out now week to week. Ricard Raquel wasn't doing anything anyways, but he's been sidelined. So I look at their top 6. It just seems to be holes on both sides. And I really do, even though it's the back-to-back, like, I don't know if I like Arizona tonight, but I really like what I've seen from them. I'm not surprised that they're playing good hockey and hanging around in some games. Lawson Krause is one of my favorite. Like, I love the Michelli and Krause and Bukestad line has been pretty solid. Saw Jason Zucker last night get up on that top line, little fun revenge game for him, I guess. Logan Cooley was up there for a little bit. I didn't think he could hold his own as like a number 1 center. And they bumped him down. Alex Kerfoot was, on that first power play, has been cooking with some points as well. There was a question earlier about the Pens. Everyone seems to like the Pens. Pittsburgh money line, Pens. Raquel disappeared once the season started. Yeah, down year. There was a Carlson question I'll get to in a little bit, but Pittsburgh's minus 190. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to put my hard-earned bucks on the Pens at minus 190. Although I do think that they could squeak out a W.
I actually think that's about fair. Like if they're winning this game,
I think it's fair too.
I don't mind it. I think it's like I don't see them disappointing here. I don't think they've been as bad as their record. And the one thing with Arizona is like their power play has been so incredible. That's helped them a lot. I think it's gonna be a really good power play. It's a really dangerous look. They've got some really creative guys, but that's been a huge strength. And then the goaltending's been incredible. But at even strength, they've trended downhill pretty hard. And to be fair, it really has. It does feel like they're kind of going to come down to earth. The underlying results aren't very good right now. I don't really see like what's worked for them continuing. And the other thing too, like the Barrett Hayton injury sucks. Like that's their top line center. So I don't know if I agree with this EK65 trade because look at the contracts he got rid of.
Yeah.
And everyone thought the Pens would be terrible. Before anyone discussed Kyle Dubas, everyone said the Pens will be bad next year. No one thought this old team was getting it going.
Right.
So I don't think it's fair to really say anything. I think it's kind of just like you don't really know one way or another, in my opinion. Like we'll know in like 4 years when he's had the reins of this thing for a while and he's made all his moves, if they're good or not.
He made a ton of moves, but he did shed some dead weight, right? He really did.
That's the thing. He took over some trash, real. And I mean, it's not like they look great. The bottom six still can't score. And to me, it's just kind of a neutral comment. I think he took over a tough situation, and the situation looks more or less what it was. And Carlson's been pretty good, right?
Yeah. He started off slow, but he's been much better. And I like some of the other pieces. Like they seem more built for the playoffs if they can get there, like Achari and Lars Eller. Like those are key bottom six guys that will make a difference, in the playoffs as opposed to the score sheet or the box score in a regular season.
And that bottom six was trash. Like it was
it was
in the league last week. So I don't think you can look at them it is what it is. Like I guess his moves haven't worked out great, but he took over really just a garbage roster, I think, aside from and a tough spot too, right? Like what do you want to do there? Did anyone really think you could?
You can't blow it up. I mean, you got to give it another go, right?
You really gonna be able to make it like a cup contender.
Yeah. And Jerry's been okay too. Like he's had a bounce back. I like a bit of a long shot here for Riley Smith at over 2.5 shots at plus 124. I would consider something like a 365 where you go maybe Lawson Krause for 2 and Riley Smith for 2 shots. That's probably plus money instead of like asking for 3 shots. But Riley Smith, it's just the opportunity for him, with some of these wingers that are out. The matchup against Arizona played last night. They're still among the leaders in shot attempts allowed. 4 shots the other night. He's been at 4 straight games. He's cleared 2.5 and 3 and 2 of the 4. But the ice time is certainly there for him. And again, the Pens are just, they're missing with Rust out week to week and Raquel out. I mean, we could maybe get a little bit more there from Riley Smith moving forward. Okay. 2 more. Philadelphia, Nashville. Flyers at plus 120 on the road. The Prens at minus 140. And then we'll wrap up with the Flames and the Golden Knights. So I'll kick it over to you. Nashville minus 140. Man, Flyers have been a pretty good story.
They've been great.
Really good. Really good hockey.
I think they're one of the more interesting teams in the league. And I looked at this week as I'm keeping my eye on that Tortorella Jack Adams price because they're in Nashville tonight. And that's the biggest underdog they'll be this week. So say they win tonight, they get the Caps. And then I think it's the dinged up Red Wings. So they'll probably be favored versus Washington and then slight favorites versus the Wings, I think. Like they go 3-0. I think everyone takes notice of this story, and that price plummets to where like Laviolette and Talkett are. So I think that's interesting. Like their underlying numbers are pretty good. And the one thing I look at, which kind of works against the Tortorella thing, but no one's talking about it this way, is that the roster's not that bad. Like the D core is pretty bad, but I think the forward core is insanely underrated with. Like there's high picks that are now just playing good. And then Couturier is back. He's healthy. He's playing like a number 1 center. So like I keep beating this drum, but like I don't think it's as much like working with nothing as some people think. which is a good thing because I think that makes it more sustainable in my eyes that like this isn't just some team with zero talent that's overachieving. I think the back end is shaky, but the offensive core is a lot of guys that are knowing to play against and some legitimate scoring talent. So yeah, I mean they could do it, and I think Torts will
I
really
like them tonight.
Adams race if they do. So I thought that was a really interesting note as I looked at the schedule for this week that like they could go 3-0, and then everyone's going to be talking about what their record is and where they're at and how much they're overachieving.
Right. Mini 2-game road trip went in Toronto, lost 4-0. The next night they played Montreal and they squeaked out a 2-1 victory here. But yeah, the Flyers are playing really good hockey. They're getting good goaltending. There's a guy at work who is a Flyers guy, and he asked me, how just like, are the Flyers going to be okay this year? And this was like in the first week and a half. And I said, as long as Cam Atkinson and Sean Couturier stay healthy and Carter Hart gives them like average or slightly above average goaltending, they will actually
and they
hang around.
Like Forster is legit good, and
Absolutely,
he's just annoying to play against in all areas. And then you look at like I still like Farabee, Bobby Brink, super high pick, was like really good player coming into the league, and now he's just showing out the way that people thought he could. So I think it's one of those things. And then even when you consider the fact that they sit like Morgan Frost or Joel Farabee every other night is another comment, I think, even though they could probably just not need to have Deloriers in the lineup. But
yes,
it's just, I think that's a comment on how much talent is actually there. Especially because it's been beyond just message sending at this point, right? Like it's been past that they just wanted to try to get Frost to do certain things. Now it's like they actually just have the talent that they can sit someone that good every night. I think when it gets to that point, you have to just kind of realize this isn't just like a scorched earth roster. Like those two both would have been the best player on some of these teams in previous years. I mean, Frost down the stretch last year kind of was their best forward.
He was.
So yeah, I mean, you look at it, they've got above average underlying results. Like they're, I think, defending quite well, and they have a roster that I think is really just not that bad. So
yeah, and Sean Couturier can shut down anybody.
He is shutting down everybody too.
Yeah, he is
shutting guys down hard. Like people aren't getting much off them at all.
No. I like the Flyers tonight as dogs, plus 120. I'll jump on that. Tortorella is 8-1 over at DraftKings to win the Jack Adams. And I like Cam Atkinson. I know he hasn't been as consistent. They do shuffle their lines up a little bit. Cam was on the third line the other night. Now he's playing on the second line here tonight. He's 2.5 shots at plus 100 over at DraftKings. So I'll lean with that one. And then the final game of the night is in Vegas. Minus 190, and the Calgary Flames checking in at plus 170. I thought they played pretty decent against Colorado. I think Georgiev let in a couple softies, but they were certainly hanging around in that game last night. I like Jonathan Marchessault for a point at minus 125. He's in the free article over at ftmbets.com. It's from DraftKings. I think books just kind of adjusted a little bit because maybe he moved off that top line. Because for a while there, he was, I wasn't seeing anything shorter than minus 140, but the Flames 6 goals last night. This is a team that has lost 4 of their last 5. They've allowed at least 4 goals in each one of those losses. And even with Marchessault off that top line, he's still picking up some points. He's still playing on that first power play, 5 goals, 6 points, and 22 shots in his last 5 games. So minus 125. It's a steep price for the 3 shots. It's like minus 150. So like I said earlier, just got to stay away from these shot props. Hope that he hits the score sheet. Could be a power play marker. Could be a 5-5 with William Karlsson. So that's where I'm at. That's my favorite play. I would say Stone and Eichel I have in at plus money to pick up points. I'd say Eichel assist or Stone assist is decent value there as well. But anything you like here? And do you think the Flames are close to blowing this thing up?
Oh, I mean, it's crazy because it doesn't feel like they've been as bad as losing 4 to the last 5, but I look at it and I guess
can't get a save again. Bottom 10 in 5-5 save percentage. Can't get one.
Like it's been the Canucks, Wild, Canes, Devils, Avs. So kind of a night. Oh, and the Stars and the Knights and the Avs and then the Stars.
Tough stretch.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. Really, really tough stretch. And this is another brutal spot because apparently they got in last night at like 3 a.m. So coming into Vegas in that spot's not easy. The one thing I do think is I'm seeing people just talking about Dustin Wolf as like a fade candidate because his stats actually are really average. He's let in, I think, maybe one goal he's supposed to save this whole year. Like if you watch the Sens game, the Flames just got smoked. The goals were like tip-ins, like breakaways, 2-on-1s, whatever. Just and then he's kind of had this similar stuff going on. I thought the one goal versus New Jersey was soft, but he's actually been okay. So that's something to watch for me. Where like maybe not tonight, but there could be some decent times if the market gets really low on Dustin Wolf, because I don't actually think he's that bad. I think he's stopped the ones he's supposed to. He's gotten in there in some tough spots, and I feel like the team hasn't helped him. Kadri's been tackling him like just all sorts of crap. The one game versus Carolina where it gave him respectable stuff in front, they won, and he stopped all the ones he was supposed to. So I think you don't want to just like have that fade Wolf narrative that I'm seeing from people that he's just like going to be trash. I don't know. Yeah, I like your looks though. I think like the Knights should be able to do some damage offensively here.
Yeah, I think they probably win in 60. A little regulation stuff, maybe a low scoring game.
It scares me. I think the Flames are a little scrappy, but this really tough spot.
They are scrappy, and they do play Vegas pretty tight, actually. But yeah, it is tough. I mean, you just rattled off a lot of tough teams they played, not really getting the saves at the time lately, dating back to last year, not getting the saves.
At Wild versus the Lightning, and then versus the Panthers, and then it opens up a bit for them. But that is a real nightmare stretch.
That's rough. Okay, we're going to wrap up here. Got the article inside the description of this video with some Prize Picks plays. Just lost my my headset. You still hear me? You still hear me pretty good? Yeah, you're good. Headset just died, but we'll keep going here for a second. So I got some Prize Picks plays in there. Favorite props today would be the Bouchard assist, the Neighbors point, and 3 shots. I got Jonathan Marchessault for a point. Jack Eichel for an assist at -115. I got Robert Thomas for an assist there as well. Also riding a couple assist props in the Oilers game. You know, even Draisaitl at +135 for 2 points. Hyman for an assist at +125. Goal scorers I have inside the article. Leon Draisaitl, Nikolai Ehlers, Jake Gensel, Jonathan Marchessault, Sam Reinhart, Jake Neighbors, Kucherov, Matthews, Zibanejad, and Hyman in there. And I'll let you wrap it up with a couple of your favorite sides. But for me, I am going to ride with the Blues. I think we both like that one, even at -135 for them at home. I'm going to ride with the Flyers on the road at +120. And I do like the Golden Knights at home in 60. And I like the Kraken as home dogs here today as well, +150.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. Pulling the trigger. I think they're going to make it scrappy. It's not going to be a fun bet to watch, but no. I like that. I like the Blues. I'll throw out there, I think Thursday, the Sens in St. Louis. So I like the Blues tonight. I think the Sens beat them on Thursday, though, now that some of these are out of the range. And then I think I like if that Scheifele at -105 over 2.5. That really stands out to me. I'm surprised to see that. It just feels like a guy who's getting a good matchup, 40 goal scorer. It's just, in a nutshell, that number sounds quite surprising. So I like those. I think those are kind of my favorite ones out there. Really not that many sides. You know, looks like a lot of them kind of got corrected pretty good, but I think you gave out a good slate of plays there.
Yeah, there's a couple other things here on the sheet. I'm glad you brought Scheifele back up. I think that's a pretty good price. Even Ehlers assists or Velarde's a long shot at +140 for 3 shots. Lawson Krause, Riley Smith and like 2+ shots, maybe in 365. Josh Norris, Teuvo Teravainen for a point. We kind of both liked something there. And then maybe Cam Atkinson for the 3 shots. I do like Trocheck, but only at Bet Rivers, man. I'm not going anything steeper than -150 for 3 shots for Trocheck, but I think I saw -130-ish for him as well. So Hammerhead, that's it, man. One more Eagles trash talk and you're out of here. You're going to get the band, dude. Put the AC/DC album over the Eagles logo behind you.
They're going to go 4-0, beating all these scrub teams, Chris. And then you're going to be pumping the Eagles up again.
Let's go. He did get his shirt. He got his shirt 6 weeks later, 6 months later, maybe, but he got his shirt. Okay, Nick, appreciate it, man. Why don't you take the time, everybody, to check you out on social media and like you mentioned your podcast and stuff. So take the time and people will give you a good follow here.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at NickM_hockey, and all my writing is with the Action Network, and our podcast is called Line Change podcast with the Action Network. So that's our hockey comes out Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays.
Perfect. Love it, man. Love chopping it up with you. It's been a long time. Let's get together again very, very soon. Give Nick a follow on Twitter. Check out all the work over at Action Network. Hit us up. If you guys have any questions, you can reach out to Nick. You can reach out to me. Leave the comment in the YouTube section here. Smash the like button. Subscribe. We're also available on iTunes and Spotify. And EY is asking you guys to rate, review, and subscribe. And he's not even asking for 5 stars. He'll take half a star. You can give him half a star, and he'll be all smiles. And he'll be back on Thirsty Thursday. Good luck on the ice, guys. From Nick, Martin, myself, Chris Meaney. We'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.